So now that our registration process is complete, let us look at how we can activate the user with the token system and also work on the functionality to send him the email so that he can click on the link and activate his account. So the first thing that we are going to do is create a route. Let's go to our web.php, and in here we will create a route with name activate account. So we'll pass a token to this route, which will be the activation URL. Okay, and this is the method that we are going to use, and we need to name this URL route something. So let's call it activate account. Okay, so this is our route, and now that we have this verify method defined, let us look at creating that verify method. So we are here, and in here I will create a public function. I'll get a token in here, and now let's see what is the code that we need to write in here for verifying the token. So the first thing that we need to do is check whether we are able to get a user through this token. Okay, so let's see, do we have our migrations in here as well? We don't, as far as I know. Let me quickly check. We haven't written that, right? So we have not written that. We'll have a new table which is string, and this is nullable by default. Okay, so let us quickly rerun the entire migration. This is my shortcut to migrate, refresh, and seed. Okay, let us look at the database. We don't have an activation token in here. All right, so what we are saying is we will get a user activation underscore token is dollar token. We'll take the first record. Now if we don't get any user, then we need to abort the application and say it's a 400 error, bad request. Okay, let's quickly look at this particular scenario. So we'll go to our browser, activate account, and let's say I have a random number, and it says bad request because obviously with this code it is not able to find a user. But what if it can find a user? Okay, so we'll simulate that. Let's say $user. Now if we have passed this condition, that means that the user does exist. So activation token is null. We don't need that token anymore. User active will be 1 as well, and I will save that user. Okay, now when we have activated a user, we would also like him to be automatically logged in. I don't want him to type in the password again and go to the home page. So what we will do is we'll say auth login. I already have the user object, so I'll pass that and say return redirect route name will be home. Okay, so let's simulate a registration first. Come over here, password is password. Something happened to my captcha, I think. For some time, let's disable that. I don't need to verify it right now. Okay, so I think the registration is done. Let me look at the database. Yes, I have that. Okay, so obviously we haven't created any token, but let's say I have a token as 12345. Okay, so then I'll go to this URL, which is activate account 123456. It continues to give me a bad request because 123456 doesn't exist. But if I do this, okay, I'm logged in and I'm in the home page, and if I look at the database, my user status is now active, which means this particular code that we have written does work properly. Let's do a little bit of separation. Okay, so this is working, this is just fine. So we can look at the next step, which is how do we create the token when the user's registration happens, because we added a token manually, right? So let's look at that. So back to our code editor. In here, I'll create a folder, services, and inside services, I'll create a file named account activation.php. Okay, this is a class. Now a little bit of scaffolding. So namespace will be add slash services, right? Yeah, it's plural form. So this is my namespace. Class name is account activation. Okay, so now what will this account activation class do? I'm going to use this as a class which will handle an event. So if we are if you are aware of Laravel's event handling, then any class which needs to handle an Laravel event should have a handle method. So I'll have this. Now this method will take care of what is the activity, but we need to generate a token. So I'll additionally add a function, a private function called generate token, and in here I will return empty rand, which is a random string generator, and I will also make it a little more unique by adding that time. Okay, so if you want to see what kind of an output comes, we can do something like PHP artisan tinker. Okay, and let's see what is the output. Okay, so these are some random tokens, and I'm pretty sure this will not be duplicate because it has the time here as well. Okay, alright, so now getting back to the important part, which is how will this event be triggered. So if we look at our registration controller, you'll see validate is called on the request in this validator, and then once everything is done, right, in the register method, an event is fired. An event is fired with the user passed on to that particular event. Now let's see what is happening in here. It just says that it's a public property user, which means whichever class is going to listen to this event will have $user available. Okay, so why don't we see if we are getting that. Okay, now this is our class. I will say my registered user is a parameter in here. For now we will use logger. Okay. Now the question is, how will Laravel understand that when this event is fired, I need to call this event, right? So in our service providers, or rather the providers folder, we have an event service provider, and there's an array of listen. So in there, we will add our own thingy. So let's see what is the namespace for this event. Namespace is eliminate auth events. Okay, so this, and then the name is registered, right? So let's ensure everything is correctly done. And then I can have multiple listeners. Right now we have only one. Our listeners namespace is app services, right? And class name is account activation. Okay, if I want to, I can explicitly pass the method as well, something like something new or anything, but if not, by default it will trigger the handle event, which is this. So let's see if we are able to get that. I will rerun the migration so that we have the user to register. I go over here. My captcha is blocked for now. The validation will not take care of that, so things will move a little faster. Okay, so registration is happening, and now let's see if, okay, so we have the user, right? Now what we need to do is clear this out, and here quickly say $user equals user find $registered user ID. Okay, once that is done, I will set the activation token. Okay, and then we'll save the user object. Now once this is done, I think after registration we should have a token, right? Let's quickly try that out. So I'll clear the database again. I have only one user. Go to the registration page. Hit register. Okay, it says class app service user not found. Okay. Now it should not complain. And I don't think the user was created. Oh, it's already created, right? So I'll refresh the database. Go to the register page. Okay, so new user created with an activation token, and if we pass this token to that particular URL, right, it logs me in and I am active. My activation token is gone. So as the first part, which is on registration, to get the token and create an interface where the user can come in and activate his account, is done. Now what we need to do is create a functionality where when the event is raised, our application is passing him an email, or rather sending him an email with a link, which if he clicks, he will land up on that particular URL and he will just log in. Okay, so this video is already quite big, and so we'll see that in part 2 where we'll send out the email. If you like the video, do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.